6 Orleans Fire Rescue Building Committee meeting. If you wish to attend via Zoom or attend via phone, you can find the connection information and the agenda on the town website. My name's David Little. I'm the chair. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Present this evening is Chief Jeff Deering, DPW Director Rich Waldo, Peter Canine, myself, Select Board Member Mark Matheson, OES Representative Kathy McNamara, Emily Miller, and Assistant Town Manager Mark Reel. And T-Gas has just joined us. Ted Galante and Paolo, how do I say your last name?
Carissimi?
Carissimi?
Yes.
Are here, as well as Rick Pomeroy. So as soon as Ted Galante comes back in, we'll get going. But for that, is there any public comment? Yes, sir.
Tony Pearl, Pride's Path. As a resident of Orleans, I'd like to thank the employees of Orleans for their long hours and very hard work last week to get us going. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first thing on our agenda is the update from Pomeroy. Would you like to start, Rick, while we're waiting for Ted?
Oh, sure. Is Ted right behind us? Good evening. Sorry for the delay. So the team has been, I know that you received the early package of the options that were just studied, and the team has been working diligently. The Galante Group has been working diligently to present as much information as possible to you this evening to understand an order of magnitude of the two different options. What Ted and his team are going to be presenting are hard costs only, based upon early conceptual information, but it's assembled to give you an idea as to help the committee and the town make a decision as to which direction to go, the two-story option or the three-story option. It there's a lot of work that's got into it, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions from the group as well. But the entire group, working group has been, meeting on a regular basis to go through these options. And what you're looking at this evening is sort of the refined result of that, with the hopes that we can make some decisions on options on how to proceed.
Great. Good evening, Ted.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, committee. Good evening, everyone. Ted Galante, Galante Architecture Studio, and as Rick said, there's a lot of work that's gone on for a while here, and I won't go through all 85 slides or however many there are. I want to go through this, sort of give you the sort of highlights of what we've done here and where we are in the analysis of the project site. Fundamentally, there's the existing fire station site, and then there's the new site that the town purchased in the front on Eldridge Parkway, and we've been working on understanding the site on Eldridge Parkway and how to put a building on that site properly. And so I want to talk about a two-story building versus a three-story building, and some of the site kind of machinations and complications in there. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, yeah. So again, really quick, this is table of contents. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm not intentionally skipping over anything. I'm just kind of want to go through it quickly because we'd be here until 2 a.m. if I went through this entire table of contents. What we did for this process was work with our civil engineers, structural engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing a little bit, internal architects, and cost estimating team. And in order to get everyone to understand what we were doing, we put together a building narrative. And that building narrative really just describes what we're doing in building a fire station, a fire rescue building. That building has a certain a set of parameters that are different than other buildings, and we wanted to make sure that everyone was working from the same place. So this is really just a narrative that talks about that, some code issues and loading issues and earthquake zones, et cetera. Included in that is an outline table of contents, an outline specification. When buildings are designed, they are drawings describe a building visually, technical specifications to describe a building in writing. Massachusetts state law, there are some bid laws required that have implications on cost. And so we wanted to make sure some of that was folded into this. By no means is this finished, but it's the beginnings of that. So that's sort of some of the background we were working on as we were pursuing this. We also wanted the cost estimators to understand the canopy tree cover, right? When we're working on these sites, what do we have to do to, what are the implications for tree removal, site clearing and grubbing? So just to orient everyone, Eldridge Parkway is here. School committee entrance is that way. School building entrance is that way. The larger dental office is here. The smaller one is here. And then this is access to the fire rescue building back here. All of this is green. This is the fields. Maybe it's obvious to everyone. This is Nauset Field. But all of this is tree cover in some way, right? And so when we're looking at conceptual site estimating, we want to know, are we taking down trees and are we planting trees and what are we doing? So that's, this is a winter tree canopy, this is a summer tree canopy, but this has an overlay of the proposed building location. So I'll start here and it'll become clearer as I go along, but that is the proposed building location. This is the existing fire rescue building. There's some parking and drive paths in and around here, which will be clearer in a minute. This is the summer canopy overlay, so you can see the green level. So we're just trying to make sure that everyone's clear on our design team as we're moving things through. So this is a proposed two-story building here. The existing station is back here. Actually, sorry, it's right there. There's the outline of the existing station. And the site development really focuses on how we can effectively get emergency services onto Eldridge Parkway very quickly from the same street level as Eldridge Parkway, both forward and from the rear of the building, all at the same elevation 63. Let's just remember the number 63 because that's what we're going to talk about a lot tonight. This is emergency equipment rolling out this way and rolling out that way, all at elevation 63. Building footprint. In order to develop the site and parking, taking down the existing building is still within the recommendation for development of the entire site in and around moving big vehicles, all that, et cetera. We're keeping the access road, emergency response road that's used now, and we're proposing another access path to get out to Eldridge adjacent to the school building, to Orleans Elementary School entranceway. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then there's parking developed here for fire and parking developed here for school, if that were to happen. But key is two-story building, both on the same elevation. This is a three-story building, but not 3 stories tall. We're not going up, we're going down a story. So this is the emergency vehicles facing Eldridge, and behind you there are arrows. What I'm pointing to are arrows, and those arrows are down from the first floor and traveling back out in this direction. And so here there's a ramp. There's a ramp to get up to this parking area, and some retaining walls that are involved to develop that site. So the 2-story versus 3-story is really part of the conversation. I won't go too detailed through the plans. Basically a significant goal and I won't speak for Chief Daring, but a significant goal of the project, as we understand it, is to have all the firefighting equipment and all the firefighters and their living quarters on the same floor. And so this is the two-story version that allows all of that to happen on the same floor. And we recommend that the firefighters and the equipment are on the same floor. There's an upper floor, which is this zone. It's not the full size of the building. It's this zone, the second floor, where fundamentally the command staff is, the administration, some training areas, et cetera, are all up in that area. There is some mezzanine space, which is, an apparatus bay. We need 20-foot ceilings in an office. We only need, in any of the other spaces, we only need 9-foot ceilings. And so we're trying to make good use of that real estate and put a mezzanine in there. So the zone in between the front apparatus, you're looking down at the apparatus trucks here, and the rear apparatus would be a mezzanine, and there's a training tower in the corner. So two-story building. So this is a long set of slides, but it's fundamentally an analysis of how we would build a two-story building and keep the firefighters safe and operational out of their existing building. A significant cost in projects like this are having to relocate firefighters and build temporary quarters. And so, as many of you know, we worked very hard to not do that and to try and keep them in quarters. So one step is, the topography here is that the building, the Eldridge is at 62, the dentist is around 63, but then we drop down into the 40s over here from an elevation perspective. So there's a big dip back here. These guys currently leave at two different heights, and they have to travel uphill to get out to the road, which has been a long-term problem for them. And so one step is a multi-phased step. This green line represents sheet piling, or support of excavation as it's known, that we would drive into the ground, allowing the firefighters to continue to travel along here, but they would be traveling next to a retaining wall that would be on the ground. And we would fill the area. Well, there's something known as a laydown area. We're also thinking of contractor access, right? So we build the retaining wall. Contractors come in. They're able to lay down their equipment, their tools, their machines, and keep them fenced in. There's a fence here to protect them to protect the construction workers from all the elementary school people. The other way around. Sorry, Cal. To make sure that everyone's safe in the elementary school, we have a fence wrapping the property. Then we start to fill the property. We remove the dental building, we fill the property, and we end up in the 63 range. But all of those other pieces remain in place. Firefighters can come and go, and they're all kept safe. They're separate from one another. We build the new building after the ground has been filled. We put in a septic system. We're trying to work around, get to the septic system. There are questions in here. With somebody in the front with a very sharp eye can see this is a gas line. We've got to work out some utility details, but that is getting a septic system in. We then fill the apron, fill the entrance, remove the fence, and move people into the into the new building. Then take down the existing building and then regrade the rest of the site to make it level, build parking, build the outbuilding, develop the roadway, and end up with a 2-story fire station. So that's a lot of thinking that went into this, with a lot of engineers and a lot of people who were thinking about this very, very carefully. We end up with a building that's roughly 37,000 square feet, and we have some development in there. Structurally, one part of the structurally is that if we raise the access road that goes out currently, we would need to build a retaining wall along the edge along Nauset Field. And this is considered to be what's called a big block retaining wall. It's like a set of Lego blocks that are really big, that stack up upon one another. Cost-effective way of building a landscape retaining wall, really, and that would work very well. The green line is a simple spread footing like you'd have in any building, right? So very simple construction inside of that filled area. The topography because I said that the topography is undulating quite a bit, we had a cut and fill study done by our civil engineer. And this illustrates various levels of mostly fill. The darker the purple, the deeper the fill, right? So this is all quite filled in here. The blue is a little less filled, and the green is less, etc. And the number down at the bottom is roughly 38,000 cubic yards of fill that would be needed to level that site and get that to all be on 2 floors. So architecturally, we had a strong plan and direction. Structurally, confirmed that plan and direction, and civil confirmed that plan and direction with their feasibility. And so one of the things that I wanted to do to help illustrate this was generate a site model, because physical things always speak louder, and we can look at them for longer than a slide. But this is Eldridge Parkway. This is the access road through here. There's an outline of the proposed building, roughly, and these are section cuts through that model at about these locations, right? So there's a point at which we're roughly 13 feet of fill, roughly 17 feet of fill, 26 feet of fill, 22 feet of fill. And so you sort of see axonometrically that red line is here. And so that model's here. This is that model, and I'll hand it around to everybody who wants to see it. And in old school way, I would have made this out of wood and plaster and cut it on my bandsaw. But my people smarter than me said, let's 3D print it. And so we have a 3D printer, and we printed it. But you kind of can see, let's do this. There's a section right there where the road at this point is elevation 64.5. The flat part in the white is elevation 63, and in the back we're down to 50 something. And so you get to see the topography on each slice, and how much we're filling and how much we are able to work with. You know, it gets quite deep in some places, right? But it allows us to visualize it and allows you guys to visualize it and see it, if that helps. So that is a 2-story version. The 3-story version is very similar with a bit more complexity. This is what we call level 0. We've actually dropped down in the site now to elevation 43 or so at the rear of the building. There's some trucks back there, the training tower, some storage, an elevator, and mechanical spaces. The street level floor, level 1, is the same as I showed earlier, with all of the firefighters and equipment on the first floor, the primary equipment. The secondary equipment would be on level 0. And the offices above, excuse me, the offices above, as I talked about, with training and some mezzanine space in that area. This building, we went through a similar exercise. It's a lot more complex to build. Here's the retaining wall, supportive excavation, sheet piling in green. And there's a fence around the site, as we talked about, for the laydown area. And we fill the site, and then we gently slope part of the site in red, take the dental building down, fill the site. Build the new building. We have to build part of the retaining wall from the building because the site is going to be elevation 63 over here and elevation 43 over here. So you immediately see that there are complexities. Those complexities affect schedule and ways of working. We put in the septic in that zone. Lay down area and get the apron set, and we're able to open this building. This becomes temporary parking for the firefighters. I think I forgot to point that out on the earlier one. And then we continue with building the rest of the retaining walls, taking down the existing station, grading the rest of the site, in and around at different elevations, and then are able to build our new parking, our outbuilding, and ramp to get in and around. And we end up with a facility that, again, you saw this slide. It has the rigs exiting this way, lower level vehicles exiting that way, a retaining wall here. But one thing that's important that I'll point out that's a little harder to see here is that this says elevation 62, and this says elevation 40, maybe 43, somewhere in there. This is a 20-foot high retaining wall, which is not unlike your existing fire station now, with a split level, multi-height, multi-floor system, and is functionally a little questionable now, and we're worried about doing that again, but we needed to study the site in a proper way. This building is larger. It's 44,000 square feet versus the 37,000 square feet. And I want to point out that this is the structural drawing. Before, you saw a green rectangle underneath the outbuilding, and you saw a green, I don't know what shape it was, L-shape kind of thing, around the main building. Now you have, and the green is a simple spread footing. So these three sides are really easy to build. This is a retaining wall. And again, with a sharp eye, there's a triangle here and then a piece going out and over, and that's a footing below that retaining wall. This is a retaining wall, and as I pointed out, that retaining wall has to be built in two sections given the way we can phase the site. But that retaining wall comes along inside the building, along the edge of the building, behind, it splits the building in half and comes down on this side. Given all the complexities of the site, that's a very complicated retaining wall to build. Not insurmountable, but complicated. There's simple spread footing here, simple spread footing here, and you might ask what the blue part is. That's a stepped foundation to get from the deeper retaining wall up to the standard footing. So again, structural, LeMessurier helped us analyze this and thought it through very carefully. Civil engineer, GPI, also helped us think this through. This one has less fill. It's like 17,000 cubic yards as opposed to 38,000 cubic yards, so roughly half, because we're not filling as great an area because of the lower level that we are exiting out on that side of the building. I showed you the model. We didn't do one for each building. We just did one as a sort of a proof of concept kind of discussion. We were doing this as the site topography was being done, and the site topography has a lot of great information. It's helped us. We have laid the site topography over the civil engineering studies that were done, and the numbers are all within I don't know what's a good metaphor, all within shooting distance or whatever that may be. We need to survey a little bit more. There's a few more pieces. But this is just, we're sort of, again, talking about what we've been doing. So there's the 2-story building. There's the 3-story building. I can toggle back and forth between the two if that helps explain things or if there are questions. And then this really becomes a cost comparison. Now, I want to urge big caution here. Please do not take these numbers to the bank. These are comparative cost numbers, right? They're really comparing a 2-story building on the left to a 3-story building on the right. I'll also say that the building does not look like this. We're not proposing that it looks like this, nor does the building look like this. We don't know what the buildings are looking like just yet. We think they're going to look a lot like the police station. But at the moment, we're doing massing and volume and floors and trying to analyze what the implications of the site are on this building. Because when we started working on this, we said, the topography is tough, let's work here. And then the idea came to the group, I think Rick may have been the one that suggested it, saying, what if we level the site? And we started to look at that, right? And so we have a 2-story building versus a 3-story building. We think the construction period is roughly 14 to 16 months for a 2-story building. We think the construction period is roughly 16 to 18 months for a 3-story building, primarily because of the complexities of the site and retaining walls and all of those things that need to be put in there. I don't think I said it, but the retaining walls in this building are cast-in-place concrete walls. We do not need one on this side, on the access road, in this case, on the Nauset Field side. Here, they would be the rough block-built walls, but we don't have any inside the building. So the longer construction period, and so now I want to do comparative conceptual budget. And basically, this building has a potential hard cost of $47 million. And that includes all the site development, right? We use a dollar per square foot as sort of the AEC industry uses dollars per square foot to cover sort of the general range. But those are all hard costs, right? Those are things that, that's what it takes to build the building, the light fixtures, the floor, the walls, all that sort of stuff. There is something in buildings known as soft costs, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. If you pick the building upside down and you shake it, anything that falls out is part of the soft costs. The OPM fees, the architect and engineering fees, legal fees, those are all part of soft costs. That's not part of this. So this is not a total project budget. I urge you not to take this to the bank anywhere. It is a comparative between 2-story and 3-story. So the 2-story, roughly $47 million. The 3-story, roughly $61 million. $1,200 a square foot versus $1,300 a square foot, with soft costs not included. So that's a lot. I talk fast. Please ask me to rewind anywhere. Thank you for listening.
Quick
Yes.
question. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was really helpful. Is that including site work?
It is. This does include site work, yes. That's why we did the civil engineering analysis to figure out how much soil import we would need. And the conversation has been going on quite a ways. The cost estimator had this for a week or so to work on it. But in the interim, we've been talking to both civil engineer, structural engineer. Apparently, there is fill on Cape that's available for this kind of a project, which is great news. And so we're not going to be importing it from Worcester or somewhere. So
So is that why the per square foot cost is higher than the one in the package you gave us? Because it was like 800 to 900.
I think that was building only and not
Yeah, not
site.
site.
Yes, that's right. That we've thought it more. This is a much more thorough think than that was at that time. Yes, yeah.
Does this get us through net zero certification?
I think the building cost can get us through net zero certification. I think we can. Because we have not finally designed the building, we don't have all the details. We don't really know the HVAC system yet, right? There's meetings that have to happen to go through all of those things. We used certain dollars per square foot as a baseline, around $850 a square foot, and then added complexities to the building. So for the 3-story, for example, there are complexity factors in there. Once we get a direction from you guys, a confirmation on one path or another, we'll refine those numbers, and net zero is in our sights. And so that we would come back with a clear direction on that.
Rick, do you have anything to add?
I think Ted did a great job
Great.
presenting that, and pretty concise in a short period of time. There's been a lot of thought and effort that's gone into this. And one of the driving factors that we were talking about today was, in our pre-meeting today, was, what is best for the department from an operational perspective and a response times perspective. And the chief has always maintained he'd prefer to have all of his operations on one floor. So the 2-story option solves that for you. We do have some concerns with the amount of fill going into the site, and there's geotechnical work that needs to be completed, and some early discussions with the structural and geotechnical engineer as to how that fill operation will take place. But in order to advance this any further, we really need to make a determination as to what direction we go with this. And it tested out, the 2-story building. And for folks that don't quite understand, even looking at isometrics or perspectives, a 3-story building, this 3-story building is much like a 2-story colonial with a full walkout basement in the back. So from the street, it looks like 2 stories, but from the back of the building, it's 3 stories. That's the simplest way to present it. So it's really, we're here for any questions you may have. We're really early in the design process, talking about HVAC systems. There was one or two meetings with the town, with the HVAC engineer, talking about the different, how the building's going to operate and looking at the life cycle cost analysis. But until we land on our building footprint and whether it's going to be a two-story or one-story building, it doesn't make any sense to spend much more time designing something two different ways. So we're really here this evening to try to present that to you and see if we can make a decision to move forward in one direction or another.
Okay, why don't we start down at your end, Mark? Questions?
I don't have any questions. I've been with the team along the way, so I'm good here.
I think that my questions were mostly answered. Where is the septic and the two-story option?
They're both planned to be in the back corner over here, in both options.
They're the same.
It's shown
Yeah,
in the back-
same
in the
location,
back.
yes,
Same
yeah.
location.
Yet to be borne out with some formal soil excavation and test pits, but that's the plan.
Yeah, I had some questions about the,
Could you get a little closer to your mic,
sorry,
please?
yes. I had some questions about the elementary school entrance coming from like the school community's point of view, but I don't know if that's something we want to talk about now or not. Is that, I mean.
I'm willing to talk
it's
about
not-
anything.
It's not about two-story or three-story.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just have concerns with that double entrance. Like, I can already see people pulling into that. There's going to have to be a lot of delineation there and clear stuff.
We did talk about a fence wrapping that at some point. It would determine if fire has an electrified gate or something of that nature. But that would, our concern too is making sure that civilians aren't going to a secure area or an area with emergency vehicles. Actually, the fence part, sorry, I think the fence part's not going to work, but yeah, we have to work that out. I agree with you.
Yeah, and then there's also just right now, there's a sidewalk along the entrance and people do, walk in there and ride their bikes sometimes, so that looks gone, right? And then also, I'm just wondering, I see that new parking gets put in at the end, but, so basically for the construction period, you're taking away the parking, but you're not replacing it till after the construction's done?
So, Emily, I believe, isn't the sidewalk on this side?
That's where there's parking and a sidewalk, yes.
So that's not going to be disturbed. That remains. This is the existing entrance?
No, that's where the parking is, isn't
Actually,
it?
Yeah, I think
I'll go back a few slides. I think we can talk that through in another slide here. So this is what it would look like during construction. This is the existing entrance. This is the existing parking along here. And this is a fence that would go in to wrap, during construction, that portion of to keep contractors in their lane and school folks in their lane. And then we have not designed all of this from what does it look like for OES later. When I get back to here, we have not designed any of that, quite frankly, other than I said to the office, we have parking here, we can't compromise OES. Let's give them more parking. I think, if I remember off the top of my head, they're 27, and we just put in 44 because that's what would fit in this area. So any sidewalk or access path or what have you, I would ensure that it's back in there.
But during the construction, so I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
understand, did you take over those
No,
parking spaces?
during construction, no. Everything from the red
Oh,
line
is
to the
not
right
touched.
is
Okay.
construction. Everything the red line to the left is not touched, yeah.
Got
And
it.
then when it's all finished, this was, because, when we take the construction away, this is gonna be a mess, quite frankly.
Right.
The trailers are gonna be there and pipe and I don't know what. That's all gonna be back here. So we're gonna have to rebuild that, and we would rebuild all of this stuff as part of this plan. Were we to go in this direction with an access road on that side.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, go back one. Yeah, the gray up there is the septic.
There you go, that's the
Got it.
septic, yeah, for both, yes.
Yeah, that's good. I think it was just because there weren't pictures of the parking spaces anymore. I thought you
Yes.
kind of moved everything over, because then there's also a greenway, so it just seemed like. Yeah.
When from my perspective, if and when we move in this direction by having access roads next to OES, I would ask that OES is in the conversation,
Right.
if that helps.
Yeah.
I think that's the way I would say it. And I think Mark and others would agree that they'd have their impact and such on that.
That makes a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah, yeah.
sense.
Can I just speak on the driveway real quick? If this were to be the pathway that we go as part of the design of the new fire rescue station, that driveway that abuts the elementary school will not be used for emergency vehicles on a primary basis. That
Right,
would
it's
be
for construction vehicles.
Would
right.
be for construction vehicles and maybe public business at the fire station, but emergency vehicles would not use that as a regular path of travel.
Yeah.
Responding to or returning from emergencies unless there was some situation that a pathway was blocked.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be responding
Right.
on that side of the property on a regular basis.
Well, we're going to get back to that thing we were talking about at one point, was that
Peter,
public.
can we just go around and,
Yeah, okay.
Kathy?
Emily asked a lot of my questions. I saw there in one of the slides, you had a water line down in that berm between the two driveways. One of them, you don't have to go back and find it, but there's also a power line that runs down in there
Yes.
also. So I just wanted to make sure that was.
Yep, thank you. We have, they're really hard to see on some of the slides, but we have the utilities mapped and
Okay.
we're tending to them carefully.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
The other thing was, I actually had spoken with one of the bus drivers, and so I kind of ran this by her, and I said, what do you think of it? And she said, well, she goes, the only thing is that they are required by law to do bus checks after they drop off the kids at the school. And traditionally, they pull into the top, like maybe 5 or 6 spots at the top of the driveway.
Up here.
To do their bus checks. They have to physically get out of their seat and go make sure there are no children
Yeah, 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 yeah.
or anything more
Yeah.
nefarious back there. But, so she said that when this gets reconsidered, she said, I don't know where we would do our bus checks if that was the way it looked.
That's an interesting
they
point.
keep-
So,
yeah,
so
so
if
they
it,
keep-
if it looked like this, there's no,
There's nowhere for them to.
so maybe that's, again, that's one of the reasons I'd want OES at the table, because I think if we did a bus pullout, if we move in this direction, that
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And there, it's a super tight, because it's a regional, again, school committee,
Yep.
school system, that they're racing also back out to get the middle school and high school kids up.
Right.
So it's like, they are like
Yeah.
down to the second to try,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
can't wait at the school curb to do that. And there's usually, I mean, we're there almost every day. There's a
Understood.
line of cars out to Eldridge.
Yeah.
Trying to get, do the drop off around the circle. So that's
Understood.
just one, and then, and there's 4 buses, and we all have to do it within 15 minutes.
Yep.
It's very quick from 7:30 to
Yeah.
7:45. So, and I think that, and if you start moving times, you got to get the teachers union involved and all that, so.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
would
Don't wanna
advise
do
against
that,
that.
yeah.
But, so, those were my questions.
Yep, good.
For now, so.
Mark?
Yeah, I think I had questions initially looking at the first package that came out with the 2-story and 3-story. Just in terms of the square footage. Your original package, I don't know if Mark told you, the basement drawing on the original package for the 3-story was the same as the second floor.
I think there was an error in it getting sent out, and so
Yeah.
we,
So, and so I just, I was looking, I was trying to just look at the numbers in terms of the largest square footage of the 3-story one, and, the size of the garage for the secondary vehicles being down below, had a much larger workroom area, space, tangential to the training room, the tower itself, then a larger space. And I didn't know if the chief, he can answer this later on, doesn't have to be now, but my question at the time was, we always seem to be scrambling for more space, that, we do things, we make it as small and economical as possible, and then a few years down the road, you're living there, and you're like, oh, I wish I had more space for this and more space for that, or whatever. So whether that increase in square footage that would be available from that 3-story plan would be worth it to go down that route initially. But the other part that you explained tonight that really wasn't evident in the initial drawings and whatnot was the complexity of the foundation system and the retaining walls. I was wondering what the difference would be when you offset it with way less fill, but more complexity with the wall structures. And I think you alluded to tonight, I might have not quite understood what you were saying in terms of the complexity of all those fills, because I know in many of the soil conditions here in Orleans, in some of the jobs I've been a part of or worked with people on, compacting all that soil is just so time-consuming and so expensive, just layers compacted and layers compacted, as opposed to just people think, oh, you just come with a dump truck and dump it in there and you're all set. So, did you,
I don't think I spoke to it directly, but there's a couple of ways that we've been thinking about that. One is that, using structural fill and compacting it is a possibility, and it takes some time, but that's certainly a viable way to do it. And let me just preface all of this, but we don't have the geotechnical report yet.
Right.
We did not do a geotechnical report. We really can't do a geotechnical report properly until we know the building footprint, right? So that's something that, and I'm talking to everyone. When we land the building footprint, then we can do a geotech report, and that'll tell us the quality of the soil, whether there are organics in there, whether it's mostly sand, where it's going to be. So what's underneath what we bring in is a question, right? So one way is to, assuming everything underneath is in relatively good shape, one way is to bring in structural fill and yes, compact it and lifts and get us to where we need to be. Another way is actually to use the schedule that we're working with right now in your favor, right? One of the aspects of the schedule, as we currently understand it, is that the dental office isn't available until June of '27. That does not preclude us from preloading the rest of the site, right? And so preloading, for those who may not know, means that you fill a site, the valleys of a site with soil, and you let it sit there for 8 months, and it naturally compacts over time. And the geotech watches it, and we get some benefit from that. And then we do some further compaction when we get there. And if we need to do additional ground strengthening, we can also do that. So there may be an opportunity in your schedule that helps with filling the site by preloading the whole thing.
yeah, I guess, so my question would be, you've explained a little more now, but my question would be the difficulty of, we could probably know ballpark the cost of the retaining wall and foundation structure required for the 3-story building, because you're dealing with the construction of those walls and the materials and all
Right.
that. So that's, you can kind of ballpark, you know what that figure is. But when you try and compare it to the fill for the 2-story building, that's still kind of an unknown. And so when we look at the cost that we had with, this cost per square foot of the 1,200 versus 1,300, and I know you said don't go to the bank with any of these things, but I'm just wondering whether, we can look at that and say, oh, well, the 1,300 is based on close to real numbers with the mechanics involved in constructing all those retaining walls and stuff. But the 1,200 has the unknown of what do we really need to do for all these soil.
Well, just,
fills.
yeah, and that's why it's comparative, but what I'll say to you is that what was priced as structural fill. So it was structural fill compacted in lifts, right? So the time, the level of effort is all incorporated in there. So that part's been
That
built in.
becomes more of a known, just like.
It's a known,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, so as I said, the only, in having seen now the upstairs for the 3-story, tonight's slides, very much like the upstairs of the 2-story.
Yeah.
All those things are the same, it's just that space in the back, if we do the 3-story, and the extra storage and all the things that would be available there, the chief can deal with that.
Yeah.
Thank
My,
you.
my apologies for the wrong
Yeah,
slide
no
being in there
problem.
at the earlier set.
It's, it was a big set of drawings and whatnot, so
Thank you.
not a big deal.
All set? Peter?
I was happy with both the 2-story and the 3-story. I kind of favored the 3-story, and there's a lot more going on, and I thought it was a better intensive use of that same general footprint. I like the use of the mezzanines in there. one of the things, I mean, we're gonna need every square inch of roof here for PV if we're going the route we think we're going. And the other thing that we realized at the DPW when we did it was to have that HVAC stuff located within the building on mezzanines made, you know, a tremendous amount of difference, both for the longevity of the equipment and access to it, and it left us with roofs that were not encumbered by anything that vents and that kind of thing that had to be there. And also along those lines, I encourage a good use of the BIM there too. One of the things that has always impressed me about any of the fire station buildings has been mechanical systems and what's been going on with them. I mean, it's there's a lot going on there. Question I have with the septic is, has this gotten to the point where actual loads have been figured? I mean, you got occupancies and square footages. Obviously, this is gonna be, you know, this is not gonna be some kind of generic gravity Title V system. You know, for leaching areas and everything else, we're not near that yet, or we're just?
No.
Okay.
One of our next steps is to do that once we figure out which building we're building. I think that's going to be the next piece here. But yeah, and BIM is building information modeling for those who may not know. And what that means is that we build a three-dimensional digital model, and all the equipment is modeled and organized in a way that makes it really effective when you put the building together. So that's something that we absolutely do.
Just a classic thing that drives me nuts is at the police station, when you sit there at 28 and you wait for the light and you look at the roof, there's a whole patch of vents that come through that roof. It looks like, to me, it's a mushroom farm. And if you look, every time you look at that, it's like, I have a good feeling that stuff could have gone 8 feet out the back of the building, and it would have made a tremendous amount of difference. But it's a perfect VIM type of problem. But anyway, yeah, I'm good to go here.
Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Very good, very informative. Full transparency, I am part of the staff that works on the subgroup. I feed the information to them best I can to help develop some of these models. So a lot of my questions have been asked throughout the process, but I do have a couple of questions that I think might be beneficial for the public and those listening, just at least to generate some of their own thoughts. I see either one of these options, 2-story, 3-story, both will require zoning relief. Can you tell me what that process looks like and how we can guarantee that we would get zoning relief before we build either one of these options?
That's a really good, that again is one of our next steps, because the two buildings that we're proposing would have different, two buildings that we're considering, 3-story or 2-story, have different zoning considerations. The buildings, the footprints are a little bit different in size. The what's called the average grade, which is the grade around the building, would be very different, and so the height would be a different discussion with zoning, whether we went with 3-story or 2-story. But we would have to settle on a building and then pursue a path and talk to planning board and zoning board and get some of those things underway. There are setbacks on the perimeter of the site. There's a height restriction and all of those pieces, and that would be part of the next phase once we get going.
Excellent, thank you. In terms of the outer shell, the exterior, the visual of what it looks like from Eldridge Parkway, none of that has been determined, and there'll still be a public process that would go through that to be able to help identify what that building will look like compared to the neighborhood, the abutting properties, to Peter's thoughts, how we're going to hide the HVAC. That's still a process that is to be had once we get through the next steps.
That's correct. Thanks for that, Rich. The other piece that I'll say is, and not I expected anyone to read this, but in the narrative, there's a description of the building where we talk about using brick, clapboard siding, a mix of these things that are Cape contextual materials. We have not taken it any further than that kind of pricing conceptual narrative. There'll be a full public discussion about that, but the police station is our kind of visual for now, conceptual visual, and that's kind of how what will come out of the next step. Our guys keep saying, what do we do now? I'm like, sit tight, work on another project. As soon as we get some answers, then because they want to think three-dimensionally, they want to think about the volume. And I'm saying don't do it because I don't want to spend time developing the three-story if we're going to move to the two-story and vice versa, or some other version. But we would very soon, once we land the plane, we would come back with roof lines and pitches and start to think about materials and things.
Thank you. From what I can see from either of these options, two-story, three-story, looks like the existing facility would need to be removed to accommodate the site and the site grading as well as parking. Is that true?
Yes, the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, thank you. Question had come up, septic design is preliminary. Want everyone to know that evaluation to be served by sewer will be ongoing as this process moves on. I think the conservative approach right now is to consider septic, as that is something that we know we can do, where sewer has a little more logistics that need to be worked out. So I think for anyone that's just listening, right now, it's proposed as septic, but that could change to sewer in the future. And then last question, thanks for being patient. Approximately what percentage of the total cost, construction cost, can we configure as being the soft cost amount? So what percentage is industry standard?
Industry standard is 25 to 30%.
25 to
So
30%.
if we're looking at, here we are. If we added a 25 to 30% number down here of the construction cost, that would be soft cost. On the conservative side, say 30%.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Rich?
Well done, thank you.
Chief?
All right. Thanks to Ted and all his group for working on this. This has been quite an adventure. I think some of the things that are important, and to Mark's point about space and the future needs of the station, and what I worry about is making a decision now that affects the long-term operations of that facility, and what is in line with what we're trying to accomplish and solve the problems of the current station. And so we've had conversations about the three-story model and the height of the bays, the depth of the bays, those kind of things, and making sure that they are not too small, not too shallow, those kind of things, so we can put a larger fire truck in there if we needed to. And those are things that have been rolled into the design and considered with that. But really, from an efficiency and response time standpoint, having everything on the same level and the way the internal traffic flow works, the two-story version makes the most sense to our staff and what we're trying to accomplish there. The training spaces that are in the two-story version with the larger mezzanine that's sort of L-shaped gives us a lot of options as far as the training and those things. And then the three-story version, it's hard to separate the zones of the contamination because part of that is downstairs, part of it is upstairs, where if it's all on the same level, we can manage that cross-contamination in a much safer, more efficient way. So that's, those things. I was very curious to see how this process was going to go with the two-story versus three-story version because the complexities of the site. But in a perfect world, if we could get everything on the main floor, that would be the most efficient, in my opinion, of how to operate the fire department now and in the future. On that, I don't have any questions.
So I was kind of under the impression when we directed you to do a 2- and 3-story option, the 3-story option was to try and use the existing site grades. And either option basically requires a completely altered site. So I think it kind of defeats the 3-story option kind of defeats the purpose for that.
Yeah.
So this is an excellent presentation. Thank you very much. I don't have any more questions other than for Peter's benefit. Does the 2-story option have more roof than the 3-story option?
I don't think it has more roof than the 3-story option. I think
Isn't it a little bigger? Footprint-wise?
It may have a marginal.
It may be slightly bigger footprint-wise, so it might have a more roof. It is more roof. There's a stepped roof in the back of the building, so that roof might be lower. I don't know if we could put PV on there. I guess that's what I'm thinking about. So it might have a slightly larger roof on the 3-story because of that stepped roof in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else.
PV is a conversation that we'll need to have and start to develop. On a public safety building, a Category 4 building, it has to be fastened in a certain way that's different than normal PV systems, but we'll unpack that as we go forward. You can ballast photovoltaic panel systems on a school building, for example, meaning you can lay sandbags or weights on the frame, but in a public safety building, Category 4, seismic requirements have it fastened to the structural system. So there's a different way of assembling the building that has to be considered. So just food for thought.
One quick question. In terms of if people are worried about the amount of space or storage, is that outbuilding, is there wiggle room in terms of an outbuilding, like making it bigger?
Yes, we are showing that outbuilding, and we didn't really show a lot of programming in that outbuilding, but this is, for a few vehicles, smaller things, it's mostly storage, it's not occupiable space, so tempered, it'll be about 60 degrees, and it could grow if it needed to grow, I suppose. So that's, yeah, the answer is yes.
David?
Peter.
If I could just quickly echo Mark's concern, and I think the chief's. One of the things that struck us when we went to visit any of the new fire stations that we went, some of them were there for 4 or 5 years, some of them they just moved in, they were there for 2 years. They all had containers in the parking lot already. And it was, we need the storage space. So, I mean, whether that space gets left there for future cold storage or whatever, but that's.
Make the
that
outbuilding
seems to
larger,
be the
yes,
first thing that everybody comes up short on.
Yeah.
Well, that begs the question, like, if bids come up to 15, 20% higher, where do cuts start getting made? Is it sheds, is it storage?
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
I don't mean to be glib, we try very hard to manage our estimate to bid process. And we have, right now, I think our rate of accuracy is in the 12 to 14 years where we have not had something that we've had to value engineer after bids came in. We do a cost, we're conservative our numbers now. At the end of schematic design, we do a cost estimate. Design development, we do an estimate a couple of times during construction documents, but we also bid strategically. We bid with ad alternates. And so so let's say, just for argument's sake, the outbuilding is considered a nice to have. We bid the base building, but we bid the outbuilding as an ad alternate. So we may add that, contractors. And so they're a little more aggressive when it comes to bidding. But we're always able to get what we need in the building. We've bid full wings of buildings this way and have been able to build them into the Northbridge Fire Station most recently. We did that. We had an outbuilding. The tech school was going to build it. The planning wing was an ad alternate. That became an ad alternate, and we were able to incorporate them both into the building. So depending on when we go to bid, depending on a number of variables, we track costs very carefully. We're not perfect. There'll be mistakes, I can assure you. We capture them as many times as we can, but we've got a strong track record, and I'm comfortable about that. So.
I had one more follow-up question about drainage patterns. Is there anything that could drain off into the school property to affect the fields or?
The intention is to, and I think a requirement is to keep all site drainage on site. So it will not be designed that way.
I think we have a town bylaw that requires that.
Yeah, yeah. And there's usually, as the civil engineer does the design, there's usually a peer review from an outside engineering firm that looks at these things. I imagine Orleans has that outside engineering firm. Yeah.
Anything else from Rick or Ted before we move on to our next agenda item?
We should talk about schedule.
Well, that's coming up.
Okay.
The next agenda item is a vote to recommend how to proceed, and then we'll get to the scheduling. Any final questions?
We're going to take any public comment for this one or not?
I asked for public comment at the beginning of the meeting, but is there any public comment now, since you brought it up? Yes, sir. Mr. Jacobson, you have to come up to the mic, please.
I was just,
And introduce yourself.
David Jacobson. As you drew the outbuilding in, what's the square footage of that, roughly? Is it like 2 shipping container size? As we're talking about the possibility of needing extra storage, I'm just curious as to,
It's roughly 100 by 30. Sorry, 30 feet deep by 100 feet long.
thank you. So that seems to be, got some built-in area for the storage that you were concerned about, that in 5 years, we'd need extra storage, so, thank you.
Thank you. So, why don't we move on to agenda item 5 and vote to recommend a 2- or 3-story building design? I'd like to entertain a motion, if I could get one.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that, based on the presentation tonight, I think it would be in our best interest to go with the 2-story plan, to develop a 2-story plan. That would be my motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comment on the motion? Okay, I'll start with the chief, and a roll call vote. Chief?
Jeff Deering, aye.
Rich Waldo, aye.
2-story.
Peter Canine, aye. David Little, aye.
Mark Matheson, aye.
Kathy McNamara, aye.
Emily Miller, aye.
Mark Reel, aye.
Unanimous.
I want
So-
to tell you, though, I was big on the 3-story from the get-go, but, after looking at everything and listening tonight, I think it just makes more sense to go with the 2. I think, Peter, you and I were on the
Yeah,
same
I think so, yeah.
page.
It would be nice to have everything, but we're not going to get everything.
So I'll take the agenda, we'll go to agenda item 7, and we'll deal with the minutes later. Upcoming meeting dates, if we could discuss scheduling of when you'd like to come back.
Well, we should plan on being here within the month. Before we do that, my mind is working backwards, forwards, in the sense that we have to, the town meeting is May 11th, I believe.
Yes.
And the warrant closes, I think, 3 weeks before that.
Well, it's closed today.
Pardon me?
The warrant is closed as of today.
As of today, okay.
We have a placeholder,
We have a
so
placeholder. So, our goal was to be, the original plan was to be further along in the schematic design process at this point, so that meaningful information could be getting to the estimators to give you a more defined number. What we're dealing with now is the team will start moving forward, looking at massing, looking at the exterior elevations, what's the building going to look like, and start defining some of the answers to questions like net zero and what the equipment in the building will be, so the estimators can revisit. Right now, we've got basically quantitative square foot cost numbers. We'd like to have something a little bit more informative than that. We met today, and it is doable. And what the plan would be for town meeting presentation would be, an early conceptual, elevations and floor plans, and an estimate full development budget, including soft costs. There will be contingencies built into these. It's only normal when developing a budget, but we feel that we can meet that deadline, but it'll be tight.
Before we go on, do any the committee members have concerns about coming into town meeting with these preliminary numbers?
I do, but I don't, it seems like that's the town's plan, so I don't understand
So
it.
Mark, when would you, if you have a placeholder, if we were to direct them to have something to present to town meeting, what's the drop dead date for them to do that? It's got to be in the warrant, right?
Yeah, we're going to have conversations, and we already are with council about exactly what the town meeting warrant article needs to look like. And so, the warrant is going to print, we have scheduled for April 10th. So there's literally all the time from now till then to, the select board understands that we're under this time constraint. The exact number that we're placing on the warrant is not necessarily going to come until probably late March, early April, right up until the deadline. So, that is, there's some flexibility I believe we can build into the article that allows us to continue to work on a more narrowed number leading into town meeting. But the piece of it that's important is we're going to start having presentations and article conversations around the same time as the warrant going to print, which
It just seems like we're really pushing here, to me.
We are.
I don't know what,
I have the same feeling. I mean, just intuitively, I think we're pushing this. I think there are too many things that are, at least from what I've seen, I'd like to see harder numbers on, or numbers on, period. There are things like the sewer thing that's going to drive me nuts, and I'd like to explore that for as far as we can go.
I mean, you haven't even done the geotechnical work yet, and you need to do more surveying. You've indicated that there's another area you need to survey. I feel like we're getting the cart in front of the horse. I'd like to hear what other, Rich, your thoughts? Or can you not comment because you're a town employee?
Well, I can comment. I think at the end of the day, it's an administrative decision. I think as a committee as a whole, our goal is to move this project forward and deliver a plan and a design that we can stand by.
I'm talking about a number that we can stand by, not the plan. I mean, we might even see the final plan until the week before, a couple of weeks before town meeting. If we gotta,
Well, I think
you gotta have public outreach, we've got a lot of things to do.
I think the reality is we're never going to get the real number until we go out to bid. And so whether we don't go this town meeting, then the other options are to either continue to refine the design and try to get an approximate cost, but we're always going to be going to town meeting with the approximate cost unless we decide to go to town meeting after we have a bid in hand.
Well, let's get to the elephant in the room, the cost. I think that we are going to have a significant amount of outreach with the town, to ensure that the town votes in favor of this, and the costs are already more than we told the town they were previously. And I'm just concerned that we need to convince the town about this, not just us. We just don't need to come up with a number for the town meeting warrant article. That's where my concern is, and I think, like conducting, I don't know how many times you've taken people through the fire station, Chief, but I think taking people through the fire station and making that available again and seeing the necessity and going through this outreach is going to be important for us. Otherwise, we might go to town meeting and the numbers. I used to be the moderator in the town, and without the outreach going on and getting people on board, I'm not happy proceeding.
Yeah, I would just add that, the article that would be on town meeting is a borrow authorization up to a number, right? And so, based on where we are, based on where we're going to be later in March, early April, an up to number is probably something we can work on. But the conversation about community outreach and that aspect, that can begin, we know what we're going for, right? We know what we need.
We don't have a picture. You don't even have a picture yet.
I understand, but you're talking about, having conversations at the fire station, doing coffee hours maybe. Those pieces in the conversation can happen, and we can start those earlier. But if we push that off, the up to number could be the same or more. And so I understand what you're saying.
Okay. No, I'm fine. So let's go,
To piggyback on that, but what if it fails? What if they say no? Then where are we? Where do we sit then?
They could say no at a later date as well.
Well, I know, but what if they say no in May? We
Then
put
we'd
this
have
number
to-
out there and we do
we
it.
go
and
back,
they-
we go
they-
back a second time.
So so there's really no harm, no foul? Is that what you're saying?
The reality is, right, we need to move forward on this fire rescue station. We all know it's critical.
Wait, but hold on, but it's moving forward at the same pace no matter whether we vote on it in May or later.
No.
This isn't, no, why not?
If we voted for authorization later, then the bid process wouldn't start until.
How long's the design? What are we looking at timeline-wise?
So I get the complexity of this discussion, so I hope what I say adds to it and doesn't derail it. We can probably have some level of visuals. The floor plans are very close, as I understand it, working with the chief, to where they need to be. We can have some level of visuals that are the beginnings of discussions with community in 3 to 4 weeks, right? So we can have visuals that would help socialize the project. I do recommend, I think the chair's suggestion of having people at the fire station is a great idea to happen as soon as possible and really show how difficult the place is. But the overall design process, we were always intending to go to town meeting with a schematic design and schematic design cost estimates. And that means that we would not have a full septic system design or a sewer system design. We would have a concept, and the cost estimators price that concept based on known metrics, based on the sizes of the civil engineers' narratives, et cetera. It means that we wouldn't have a full mechanical, electrical, plumbing system, fire protection system. We would have base concepts, and that's what they would price. Same with structural. So schematic design is a lot of narrative and a lot of visuals that the townspeople accept as the design, the committee and the fire chief accept as the design. And that is a fundable project, especially with a not to exceed number. As we move into design development, so that's town meeting, right? That's May. Design development is another 3-month period, and in that 3-month period, we design the septic system. We have the calculations. We know the stormwater calculations. All of those things are starting to get developed. The equipment size for the mechanical systems get designed. We know where the sprinkler room and the size of the electrical services. That's happening during design development. That's a 3-month period. So that's really the summer. And that's when I want to be here. And then we have another 4-month period after that of putting together the construction documents. And there's a cost estimate. I don't think I said that. There's a cost estimate during design development. There's another 4-month period after the design development period, and that's when all the final details are worked out. Where is the projector in the room? How does the speaker sit in the room, et cetera. Those are very detailed, and that's why it takes 4 months. And so I think between now and December, there's a lot of steps involved to get us to a final set of construction documents, and then we bid. And I don't remember if this is the schedule we proposed, but this is the general concept that of what it takes to put one of these together. And so I think we're bidding this time next year, fundamentally, or receiving bids this time next year. I think that's what we put together as a schedule. I don't remember, but.
I was asking more, also, that's very helpful, thank you. Isn't this $4.5 million that we already have put toward this project, taking us through the whole design phase?
Yes,
Like, through construction drawings?
through bidding, yep.
Through bidding, so it's not slowing down the project to not fund it in May? Right?
You're absolutely right.
I don't know about the 4.5 million. That's outside of my.
Peter,
Your contract right now is through bidding.
Okay.
I guess my concern is, at some point, I can't believe that we're not going to get to the point of, holy cow, how are we going to do some economies here to make this thing work? I'm having some trouble believing that that's not going to happen in a really quick manner. And there are some things here that could be, looked at again. I think, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to do that. One of the things, and it seemed to me, it struck me as being kind of simple, but one of the things that we realized when the original committee looked at this and we went to all the different towns, they all went through the same thing. It was too much. They had to go back, they chopped off a bay, they removed the gym or some other, thing that was, they really didn't want to do. It was a year or two later, and the critical thing that we realized was you got to go to town meeting with the right statement. It's got to be as good as you can get it, because there's a very, very good possibility here that this may not get approved.
I'm going to allow Lynn Bruno would like to speak.
jumping.
You promised to be brief, Lynn?
No, I do.
Okay.
I know you don't trust me. Lynn Bruno, former chair of the Finance Committee when David was moderator for all those years, and we worked together so well. With regard to town meeting, a question for all of you. Is it time to have a little more transparency, knowing that all these meetings are recorded and that anybody could watch the meeting or watch the video? But could there be a beginning of a little more public awareness about where are we, and get a little of the excitement and enthusiasm out into the public, and get a couple of these designs, or put some more information into the town manager's monthly report, and begin to build the groundswell of support and enthusiasm for where we're going, even if we can't get to a dollar amount for a warrant article. And even if in some of the pre-town meetings, there is a report about where are we with a fire station, so people can get excited about this and understand that we're headed in the right direction for the exactly right building that this guy needs with his team, and that we all need, because I'm part of the older generation, and I, get hauled away, and I guess that's too much, and he's going to pull the hook on me right now. But I would start with some public outreach sooner about where you are and all the good work you've done and been doing, and especially this two-story decision. So you've made a decision, so that would be my recommendation. This is your mother speaking.
Thank you, Lynn. Quickly, Tony.
I was shocked at the
Would you
numbers.
introduce yourself, please?
Tony Pearl, Pride's Path. I was shocked at the increased numbers over what we thought about before. I think we need a few months' sales job so that we don't have to go back after a defeat in an earlier meeting.
Thank you. So I guess it doesn't hurt to ask Rick and Gallant Studio to keep moving forward, come back in a month or so, as you said, Rick, maybe the end of this month or the beginning of the following month.
Yeah, we have a short window, so.
So we have a placeholder. I'm just not necessarily comfortable using that placeholder, but we don't have to make that decision now. What we can do is have a meeting among ourselves to discuss outreach, another meeting, or I think that's very important. And so we don't necessarily have to have a meeting with the OPM and the architect. We set up a meeting date for you guys to come back, and then in the meantime, we anticipate that we'll get some pictures and drawings that we can use for outreach. And when we get them, we can revisit this whole issue, because it's not up to us as to whether it's placed on the town meeting agenda. That's the select board. And is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make a decision now because it's not our decision to make.
It seems like maybe we should somehow be able to communicate with the select board.
Hi.
Well, so I guess you'll take this back to
Kevin's in
the,
the back.
yeah, hi.
Board.
So you'll take these concerns to the select board and, because I'm a little confused as to where the push to put it on May is exactly coming from. And I'd love to hear like the good reasoning why, and I'm totally open to that. I just don't understand.
You know, I can't speak for the rest, the board as an entirety, but I know the discussions that we have had and that we've had with the town administrators and with the chief have revolved around the fact that we have been looking at this fire station problem for many years. We've pushed and pushed and pushed to get this thing going, get it on the table. We went through the town meeting vote to get the money for the design and move it forward. And so I think the feeling is that we're not going to push it so that it goes so fast nobody knows what the hell is going on, but we want to push it so that, you know, this gets done, that we have the right information as quickly as we can get it. I think what we're being told tonight is that within the next 4 or 5 weeks, we will get things that we can start to use. It will be helpful for us going into the town meeting in May. That we're going into the town meeting in May with as much information as we can, to have as much public outreach as we can to keep this project moving forward, because the longer we delay it, the more it's going to cost us. And I think that the select board is probably in a position where if the board doesn't feel comfortable with, you know, what we have for information and where we are, then we can say, hey, wait a minute, we need to maybe have a special town meeting later, that we can't do it in May, but I think right now, we want to do it in May if we can, knowing that maybe there's that possibility that there might need to be some extension there, but why would we stop and slow down now if we've got a team that's telling us they can produce what we need to be prepared for town meeting and go forward?
Because we haven't done any outreach, but that decision can be made later.
Yeah, but, you know, but I think, you know, in terms of the outreach, I guess I had this discussion with a few people over the last few months, is like, it's like you're sitting in your house and you see these big machines going down the road, digging big trenches and stuff, and doing all this work, and pipes going in the ground and everything, and then you come in 6 months later and say, what do you mean there's a sewer system there and I have to hook up to it? I mean, that people actually have said that to me. And I'm floored by that. It's like, what do you need to do? How far can you go, aside from knocking on everybody's door and saying to them, hey, just so you know, we're looking to build a fire station. Here's some pictures of it. Here's what it's going to cost, and go door to door to door to door. I don't know who's going to do that, but we've been talking about this for years, and so
But
the
we also
opportunities
have,
are there.
we also have staff now that we didn't have in the past. I think what we could do, we could schedule another meeting in 2 weeks. We could arrange to have Amanda Converse come in. We could, outreach is very important.
I understood, and I'm just like,
For
you
the
know, what do
people
we
that don't-
do? You know,
Don't know we're installing sewers. It's, this number.
well, it's a two-way street, though. There's, you know, the citizens in the town, you know, if they don't know something's going on, yes, we want to get as much information out there. We want to, you know,
Okay, but
you put it
this
in the
num-
newspapers, do you put it on TV, do you put it on, you know, the town's website, or stick posters up in the library? How do you get to all these people? Because, you know, I think the town does everything that they can for this. You know, we look at last year's town meeting, all the pre-town meeting things that we had, all the things we did for the zoning overlay district in the downtown. You know, we do all those things, and you still have people that show up that are oblivious to what's going on.
the people that will just look at the bottom line number, which is going to be 30% more than what we told them when we got approval a year ago. 30%. I mean, that's a significant jump. Oh, it's our Select Board Chair, Kevin Galligan.
For the next few months, anyway. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kevin Galligan. One thing I echo and support fully what your member, Mark, said. All good to raise the questions you have, the concerns, because you're each bringing a really critical knowledge base and perspective. All good. I think the sense the Select Board has heard over the years is people are ready to do this. I think that's what we want to be able to say to people, because frankly, they would be mad at us if we didn't bring it to town meeting in May. So I think, as you're saying, David, and I agree, and I'll be here with you in terms of helping the outreach as well, we have got to get the excitement level, we've got to get the troops all prepared. So yeah, there's going to be people that say this is outrageous. We know it. These are outrageous numbers, you know. I mean, Rich, what's Truro trying to build their DPW at? More than this. So, you know, the world of construction is nuts. The other thing I would say, have confidence in what you've already done to date. You've brought on an OPM. I've worked with Rich in my consulting practice for years. This is a fantastic team. Not only
Well,
yourselves.
agreed.
But you have a team that has confidence in these numbers. So that confidence will flow through. And I think how we do the outreach should actually emphasize the quality of support you have in terms of the engineering, because this will be an excellent project to be an example of what other communities should do. Thanks.
Thank you.
David, just to add on to that too, I think from, what Kevin is saying is that the job of doing the outreach is with the town and the town administrators and the fire chief, if he wants to jump into that again. I don't think it's the job of this committee to focus on the outreach. I think it's the job of this committee is to focus on what we were doing tonight. And we need to have, the other town entities, the administrative entities, focused on the outreach. That's not our job. Our job is to look at, the things that we were looking at tonight, to make the decisions based on the evidence that was given us tonight. We had to decide on 2 stories or 3 stories. We're looking at future plans coming in here. That's our job.
Okay.
The job of the outreach is in the office across the hall. And we can help out, we can supplement it, but I don't think we need to take that burden on here. We have enough.
No, we don't, but I would like to ask if there are any volunteers on the Fire Rescue Building Committee that would like to get involved in outreach, other than myself. I'll make myself available to whatever team Mark and Amanda put together. I assume Amanda's going to be a big part of this, correct?
Yeah, just to add on to what we've done and where we are with outreach, if you remember when we went for the funding for the design process, there was a lot of outreach and conversations around the idea in general, right? And so the fire rescue station headquarters page has been at the top of the main
That's great.
page since that point, right? And so we really have a framework of what we want to, how we want to engage with the community. I think that there's been a gap of that a little bit because of the off-season. We're obviously coming back into conversations about town meeting right now. This is the kind of the kickoff point. So that is going to really begin to pick up ahead of even having the additional details that we'll get from Ted and the team. So loud and clear, we hear you. It's
Mr.
top of the
Chairman, I would suggest that we make this as a near future agenda item. I disagree with Mark. I think it's a critical part for us to do the outreach, because we're the people that are sitting here in between the professionals and the people that are going to be out there saying, that's way too much money and I don't want to spend it. I think what we enjoy here is the conversation and the process. So I think it's a very critical process, and I think we need to be part of it. Rick's available. I mean, it's been part of the earlier discussions as to what part of our agenda and our charge was going to be, so I think we need to be on top of it.
Well,
So he's volunteering.
no, I am.
No, I'm saying he's
Yes,
volunteering.
Oh, you are volunteering.
I guess I
Okay,
am.
well, so it's my job to keep this moving along and get everybody home. So, Rick, when would you like to come back?
I'm thinking the 23rd of this month.
That's great.
Makes sense? We'll do a progress update at that point. We will not be finished by any stretch, but I think that'll be a good milestone.
3:23.
You, Ted?
You agree, Ted?
Yeah. I think we can agree to that, yes.
And I think we can have the discussion on, I think you and I can go into the front office and talk to Amanda and say that in the 23rd, we're going to be getting some photos and things, and how do we get things moving along? Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
There are significant photos on the fire rescue page. They had a professional photographer go through the current station.
Great.
Those
No,
photos.
yes, I've seen those, yeah. Okay, so our next meeting will be 3:23, and Peter and I will get together and start moving along outreach, and we can be the outreach committee. Well, we have to call it something, so, just to get it moving along. So I want to thank you guys. This was great. We appreciate everything you've done, and I think we're going in a good direction.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the decision and for the questions. It helps us stay sharp, so this is great. Thank you.
So the last thing is approve the meeting minutes of 12/1/25. Has everybody had a chance to review them and make corrections if necessary?
I have my correction from the same one as last time.
So would you like to,
Read it, if that's what.
or would you like to submit them and I can? Yeah, go, why don't you go ahead, Kathy?
Sure.
Yep. Let's,
I'll just read the email I sent Laura back on January 12th. They said, "Hi, Laura, there's a few omissions I noticed from the 11/3 and 12/1 meeting. It's pretty much anything Emily or I said. I won't speak for her, but I would like the 12/1 minutes to at least reflect, I agreed with Mark Reel and Emily, that the KBA had a lot of focus on the elementary school and the community center and not enough on a fire rescue station. I would also like to record that I deducted points from TGAS due to their designs from the feasibility study and was well as brought up the October 22nd, 2025 Cape Cod Chronicle article quoting the town manager as signaling out TGAS as the architect they will be working with in December, implying they had already been selected. There are also no references to any timeline concerns that were raised. I would also like if we could please get the minutes closer out to the meetings. 4 days to review something that happened 1, 2, and now 3 months ago is not enough time to review and return them for updating before the meetings."
could I have a motion to amend the minutes to include Kathy's comments?
So moved.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting, approving the minutes with the changes that Kathy read, please say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Okay, I guess we're ready to adjourn.
One correction on that, I abstain from that one, so not unanimous.
Okay.
One abstention.
Unanimous, one abstention.
Yep.
Okay. Can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously.